You're tuning in to the Bueno Power Hour podcast. Welcome to another episode of the Bueno Power Hour podcast. I am your host, Arthur Bueno, and on this episode, I am speaking with John Esquivel. John Esquivel and I are longtime friends. He's a former promoter in Fresno, California, under the moniker Religious Appeal. He's currently residing in Las Vegas and playing two remarkable performances. We talk about some old times and just, his time in numbskull shows and beginnings and such. So, yeah, lots of stuff to talk about in this episode. So, guys, thank you for listening and enjoy. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Bueno Power Hour podcast. I am your host, Arthur Bueno, and on this episode, I have with me John Esquivel. And if any of you guys don't know about John Esquivel, he was a pretty big name in the Fresno music scene, namely from all the bands that he was in. But in one particular thing that I have remembered, one of them really is being a really good friend, being very supportive with that, and being a promoter in a thriving period of the Fresno music scene as Religious Appeal. I actually did a couple of flyers and played shows for his, I guess I don't know if you call it a booking agency, but but it was a big part of my life and something that I guess forever cherish. And in fact, I still kind of like peek at that WordPress website once in a while to kind of see like what shows you through. You know that?
Sometimes I feel like I should still update that from time to time.
So how's it going, man? How's everything with you?
Going pretty well. I've been in Vegas for the last 5 years. So working a ton out here, playing in a few bands, and at the moment, everyone in town is going crazy for the Golden Knights hockey team. So they're actually playing right now, so everyone is kind of, biting their fingernails while watching this game.
Man.
So it's good. It's looking really good for us. So yeah, I've been really good. I've been really, really, really good.
Awesome. So let's just get into it. So I kind of give sort of a brief history of you. And yes, this guy is from Fresno, California, right? Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay. So
born and raised there.
So let's let's go into the origins. I guess what bands that kind of got inspired you to not only become a musician, be a promoter, what you've seen, I guess, in the scene, how it's changed in the years that you've been part of it. Let's just kind of tap into that, man.
Yeah, okay. Well, I just got into music. I was raised with a ton of music around me. My mom was always playing different records, a lot of R&B records. My uncle was a DJ on a jazz station, and so I used to listen to him from time to time. And my cousin, who used to take me to school and whatnot from time to time, she would always play a lot of punk mixtapes and things like that she had in the car. And so I just became really fascinated with punk music. Probably like 14, 13 or so.
Okay.
Probably before that. That's a good guess. And I went to San Joaquin Memorial in Fresno. Not too many people there that were into going to shows and whatnot. But there were a few people I met who talked about going to shows and different punk bands. And really I didn't have any idea of what the local like music scene was all about, but punk scene back then was actually pretty cool. Just
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a part of it. And so, I was just listening to like MSPX and Bouncing Souls and things like that, and those kids I went to high school with were into it too, but they're also like, hey, you should check this out or check out this local band.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to remember like the first show. I remember one show I went to was at CBA. I think that was my first show in Fresno.
Mm-hmm.
It's a few blocks, if I'm correct, from where the CYC was.
Oh, Chinatown
But
Youth
this
Center?
was like, I'm sorry?
At the Chinatown Youth Center?
The Chinatown Youth Center, yeah. But this was like 14 years or so before the CYC was around. So, yeah, I went there for a show. I believe the Fallouts might have played there.
Mm.
It was that show. And then just a few other bands. And I was really into it. And just, I don't know. It wasn't like other, like, like as a kid, I went to a few concerts. And this definitely wasn't like concerts.
Right,
it was just
right.
something different. And,
Absolutely.
yeah, and I was like, yeah, and like way smaller, and it was just easier to meet people. And I think I met a lot of people that day just because of, friends of friends and whatnot. And I was just super into it. And then over time, I just got way more active with it, just going to shows and being more aware of what bands were playing, what kind of bands were up and coming and whatnot. And even if I saw a flyer, didn't know the band, didn't know who was playing, there was a good chance I was planning on going with friends.
Right, right,
we just
Right.
wanted shit to do. And because I started going so much, I started working with Numbskull Productions.
Mm-hmm.
I guess for those people that don't know Numbskull Productions, California booking. I know you're saying that don't want to call it a booking agency, and I'm kind of the same way. Like a promotions. They throw shows all over California, whether it be like Oakland or Bakersfield or Santa Cruz or
Right.
Lancaster,
Right, right.
San Luis Obispo, all over the place. So they've been doing shows in Fresno for like the last 20 plus years.
Mm.
And so around 2004-ish, I could be wrong on the year, I was always going to shows. I was playing in a few bands at that point, and they asked me if I wanted to join their team. And so I started initially just being like the runner for the show, where I would go get bands like water and food and maybe drive them around and whatnot.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so that was really fun. I think the first show I worked was like Madball, Sick of It All, and the Warriors.
That was your first show?
That was my first show working, and so it was very intimidating. I was actually thinking about this last night. I went and saw the band Backtrack last night, and I just started thinking about other shows that I've been to.
Oh my God.
And yeah, and I was thinking about how Madball brought this really big dude. I don't want to call him security, but he was just kind of like the dude that was watching over the band with the band. And he just sat on stage for the whole set, just like mean mugging everybody and smoking a cigar inside big games. Yeah, big games. And so yeah, that was wild. That was a fun first show to work. And then after that, yeah, just kept doing more and more, and still being a runner. We did, like when I was working with them, we did AFI. We did there was Modest Mouse.
Mm-hmm.
Did a bunch of shows at Woodward Park. So we did like a Day to Remember. I used to go to San Luis Obispo all the time, and we would see like Converge and the Leaker Ends and Get Up Kids, and I was all over the place with this.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it was fun. Yeah. Do you want me to kind of keep going with
yeah,
where
I
the
mean,
rest of the bullet?
Yeah, I mean, there was actually, you said something about Modest Mouse playing. Did they play in Fresno?
Rainbow Ballroom.
That's what it was. I did, man. You know what? I think I had the chance to go watch them play, and that was the tour when they did uh
That was good news.
Good News, right?
Or
For people who
yeah.
love bad news.
Like
Yeah, yeah,
Float On
yeah.
was out all
Yeah,
over
yeah.
the place.
When they made their mainstream breakthrough. Yeah, that's right. Man.
Yeah, that was like right when all of that happened. So we actually did that. I believe we did that with like the radio station was actually helping us promote that, which is crazy because you would have done Modest Mouse shows before, and you wouldn't probably gotten too much support, but it like Modest Mouse was still like a good enough band, like people
Right.
would still show up.
Right.
But now we're at the point where we had like I think it was New Rock 104 like set up in front of the in front of Rainbow Ballroom playing like I don't know, like Offspring and Social Distortion and everything else they play right in front of a Modest Mouse concert.
That's so crazy. Well, I'm kind of curious as to like the New Rock 104 station. I wonder if they're playing any new rock, like period, or if it's just the same like new metal garbage that they played for like 15 odd years.
I think it was one of those situations where that's it's the big people wanted them to play all of like the metal, like if they could have it their way, you would be hearing like Pearl Jam all hour every hour or something like that.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
But I know there's some people I know Hammer in particular really likes a lot of different types of music, and he's a DJ over there at that station. Some people that really helped kind of Fresno get with the times in regards to at least big radio stations.
Yeah. And in
but
fact,
it was wild.
And that's kind of, I grew up with that station, and I learned about those bands. I mean, like Deftones and stuff, and whatnot. Some of those bands that I don't listen to anymore. I actually still listen to Deftones till this day. I actually got a chance to.
Oh, but who doesn't?
Well,
they're so good.
They are, and I think Chino Moreno like doesn't get enough credit for his lyricism and his delivery on the songs that they I guess they create or whatever. I mean they're pretty incredible. Have you guys got a chance to book Deftones at all?
I think we did, but it was after I moved.
Okay.
And I was pretty pissed. I was bummed about that. I've seen them quite a few times because I love them.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That was actually one of the few concerts I went to. Well, when I was growing up, my mom used to take me to different concerts, but it was because the only reason why she'd take me to concerts is because I was in a stroller at that point, just like a baby.
Yeah.
And you would get the front row if you were like a parent because there was so much room in the front row. And so she would take me to like some of those. But then like as I got older, we went and saw a few bands when I was like a teenager, and Deftones was one of them. We went to San Francisco to go see them at Candlestick Park.
Oh my
God!
That
was so fun.
Was that the Around the Fur album, or was that on the White Pony album?
White Pony was out.
What?
That was like 2000. I could be getting all of my years wrong.
White Pony was around 2001 or 2002, I think.
Let me see. I'm looking this up right now. Released June 20th, 2000, and that was the summer I saw them because they were on tour opening up for Metallica on the Summer Sanitarium tour.
Ew.
So
fucking Metallica. Ugh.
It was. You have to check out this lineup though. It was Metallica, Limp Bizkit, but Wes Borland had quit by that point.
Oh.
So it was the guitarist from that band. If you remember that band, Snot.
Yeah, I remember them. Oh my god.
Yeah, so like the singer of Snot had passed away, and so that band broke up, and then he joined Limp Bizkit, and then Deftones, and then opening for that was Mudvayne. Oh, and Linkin Park was also on that too.
Oh no way! So Mudvayne was the opener for that, huh?
Mudvayne, then straight into Deftones, and then Linkin Park, Limp Bizkit, Metallica.
Man, that's
What a weird
crazy.
lineup.
Yeah, that's a pretty weird
Yeah.
lineup. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, at that time, I never got a chance to watch those bands, and I thankfully, I mean, with Deftones, I would have loved to watch them. But all the rest of the bands, bleh, I mean, I'm good. I think that I did. I think I saw Korn on accident
That's
because
tight. On
well,
accident.
no. Look, check it out. Look. Just hear me out. All right, hear me out. So I remember I was at some like Mayhem Fest. This is like I think near San Jose. Oh yeah, I think
Okay.
I have pictures of it. It's on my photography blog. And and I said hi. I was actually backstage, and I said
How'd you get
hi.
backstage?
Yeah, I don't know. I had backstage passes for some reason because I was the photographer for SF Station for a while, and so I had backstage passes, and lo and behold, there's Fieldy just walking, and I go, "Hey man, have a good show." He's like, "Okay, see you later." Yeah, dude.
Tight.
And then there was another the former like Fuse VJ.
Oh yeah, I forgot they had DJs for a second there, but that was like
Yeah. She
the
was like,
station when MTV stopped doing their shit.
yeah, like they I forgot her name, but I got to meet her. I also met the people from Norma Jean, which was weird. Yeah, dude.
They were all
This
at the Corn concert and like, or like that festival.
yeah. It was so weird. I was like, I don't know what the hell was going on, but um, you know what? This is kind of funny because since we're talking about your association with Numbskull Productions, well, Numbskull booking agency, I guess. What was the best, I guess, concert you worked? You think?
Let's see. It was probably. Oh man. So this one didn't get promoted, but we put it on
Mm.
because it was a secret show.
Okay.
And so I was working at Fashion Fair Mall. This is the whole story. I'll tell this whole story. I was working at a shoe store at Fashion Fair, and then I got a call from Eddie Numbskull. He's the one who's in charge of everything, does all the booking and everything. And he's like, hey, I need some extra hands tomorrow in Ventura. This was when the Alpine was still around in Ventura.
Okay.
They had like a ton of shows there. It was like half a skate park. Yeah, a ton of really cool shows. Saturday and Fury used to be there, but yeah, that venue is no more. And he's like, I could really use some extra hands. Come out to Ventura tomorrow, and I'll take care of you. But you're gonna want to be there. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I think I just happened to have the day off. I may have called out because it was, a job at Fashion Fair.
Yeah. Does that place still exist?
It does. They just renovated it.
Oh God, no way.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
man.
I go there. I go to Lush there from time to time because I like Lush. And it's like right where where the store that I used to work at used to be.
Oh my God.
But yeah. So the next day we head out, and it's a secret AFI show, which I'm like freaking out about because I was like obsessed with that band.
Right.
And so what was going on is, well, AFI, I don't know so much anymore. Not that they're not popular, but I don't think they run the fan club anymore. But their fan club could be like massive. Like they would send out newsletters, and you would get exclusive merch and things like that. It's called the Despair Faction. And yeah, just a ton of people used to be part of it. So for the fan club members, they used to go. The band kind of sent people out on a scavenger hunt, and you would have to figure out all these different clues. And at the end, they gave you a laminate. Like people didn't know what they were going to get, but everyone got these weird laminates. and it had a date and time, and it said like BFB Alpine in Ventura. I think they did 3 of them in California. So there was one in the Bay Area, one in Ventura, and then one in like LA or something.
Wow.
Yeah. And so all these crazy diehard fans just show up at the Alpine, like ready for a show. And they did a ton of like old stuff. And this was like their period where they were doing like All the Girls Not Gray and things like that.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you know, that whole area. And so people were like losing their minds. I remember being there like losing my mind. I'm like, this is such a good decision to come out here. That one was really good, and then Postal Service was tight. Postal Service was sick.
Man, so
that
were you able to meet up with or meet Jenny Lewis?
I did.
Oh my God.
She that one we knew about. It was like, you know, super sold out.
Sure.
I was like, I'm gonna be there. It was at the Madonna Inn in like outside San Luis Obispo. Crazy place. So I was walking around during the sound check, kind of listening to them. They sound checked to a Beat Happening song, so that was cool. And then we're sitting there eating, and then the whole band comes out, and they're all eating at the table too. So it's like Jenny Lewis and Ben Gibbard, and like, oh, it was awesome.
Damn.
And that was like one of those things. Like, I don't know. By that point, I already worked a ton of shows, and I was just like, okay, cool, like whatever. But that one, I was like, fuck, it's Jenny Lewis.
Right, of
like,
Rilo Kiley
like,
fame, right? I mean, you know, you can't deny that, because I mean, you have half of one part of Death Cab for Cutie and then one part of Rilo Kiley into one thing. I mean,
right?
Jesus Christ! I mean, the Postal Service dominated like the hearts of every, like, for me, every emo indie kid in Fresno. Like, they would talk to me about it. It's like, dude, did you hear that record from the Postal Service, man? You know what I mean? And these guys were like listening to, oh man, like there was like bands like The Snake That Crossed the Crown, May, people that were listening to like Blood
like
Brothers,
Copeland and shit.
Yeah, Copeland, like even like hardcore kids, dude, like, you know, or we called them Scenester kids, would love this shit. I mean, they were so into it, man. You know,
but even like kids that had like Every Time I Die CDs in their car still had the Postal Service CD in their car too.
Yes. It's so funny. Like, I talked to Daniel about this, like, this subject, about kind of this crossover between, you know, hardcore kids and emo indie kids, like kind of just merging together and kind of forming a community of like, they create this relationship that is just so unique, where they appreciated all that, like that metalcore, Saintster, like kind of shit. And
oh yeah,
you know what I mean? I mean, dude, I remember, and no one, because I actually interviewed Trevor a while back. That's
really?
Yeah, I got a chance to talk to him. It's pretty good, dude. He never told anybody that he used to listen to Joanna Newsom. That was his thing.
Really?
Yes, dude. He has such like wide taste in music, and it's so funny. Like because we're talking about it. We had that conversation about, you know, his relationship with, you know, the Fresno scene, like with Yacht Club and all that, and he was even talking about like the old band Buffalo Guns. Remember them?
Madera, right?
Oh man, insane. So yeah, we
every once in a while I run into Joey when I'm in Fresno, so I still see him every once. I think I can't remember the last time I saw him, but sometimes I feel like I still see him when I'm in Fresno.
Yeah. He's a great guy, dude. He used to call me the business, because he always thought that I'm always around just for the business. You know what I mean? We used to drink all the time and like say some stupid shit. So
that's funny.
But anyway, so
that's so good.
That was kind of a crazy period of your life. And I guess that Numbskull really kind of I don't know, it puts you in the door to like do your own promoting. So which kind of the segues into religious appeal. Um,
Hmm.
so
So, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, so I was gonna. Sorry. So what I wanted to let people know is that religious appeal was in fact a huge thing in the Fresno scene, um, and people don't really know how important you were to that. And and I'm glad that we're talking about this because I don't think I've ever told you how thankful I was as to you giving us an opportunity to play with bands that were so, you know, that were so important to us. I mean, Terra Melos. I think he booked Maps and Atlases.
We did that once, yeah.
You did Giraffes, I think. I'm not sure you did. And
That one was Manual A.
that was
But
Manuel A?
I do remember that show.
Yeah, yeah.
I do remember that show.
Let me kind of just sidetrack on that. You know that I met up with those guys here in Connecticut?
Caramellos?
No, Giraffes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they remembered that house show
Shit.
like 8 years ago.
Like at the mansion, huh?
Yes, they remember that like 8 to 10 years ago. They remember that
Oh
show.
my god.
Yeah,
That was a fun one.
that was really good. Fucking
I feel
Manuel
like
A.
that's like one of those shows that like people like kind of randomly bring up from time to time still.
Yeah, no, I mean they honestly like that whole like kind of period. You were part of it. You were throwing out. This was what's funny. The funny thing about you, dude. You were throwing math rock shows, and you were a punk hardcore kid. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like I just never. I was just like, wow. Like he really is gonna give this a shot. You know.
It worked.
It worked.
It worked.
It worked. It worked. And so I guess tell us about religious appeal. I mean, what kind of gave you sort of that? I mean, I'm sure it was Numbskull that helped you kind of get your foot in the door with that. But what compelled you to kind of start throwing your own shows at that time?
At that point, let's see. This was around 2004 again. I had already started with Numbskull and whatnot at this point. I started to listen to more hardcore and punk music,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know. I felt like Numbskull was doing, like, again, I was saying they were doing like Sick of It All and Madball, and they were doing all these other hardcore shows. Not too many other kids were booking
Mm-hmm.
shows that were similar to that. There were a few people.
Sure.
I mean, I have to say that there's some people, and they're doing a lot of really cool local shows. There were some really cool local bands at the time, and I was like, well, I want this hardcore band or this hardcore band to come through, and rather than telling Eddie or other people to do it, I just thought, like, why don't I just give this a shot? And at that point, I was hanging out with some other people who had kind of started to do some different hardcore shows too.
Mm-hmm.
And so we all kind of helped each other out. And the first band I hit up was Set Your Goals. And because I was
wow.
yeah, I was like super obsessed with their demo. It wasn't even like an EP or anything. It was like the demo. And I don't know if you remember like Nancy and all them and like the Invasion crew.
No,
Like
I don't recall them. I mean, the only thing that I know about and when he said set your goals is that there was this girl that I mean, we haven't talked in years. Her name is Katrina.
Katrina. She used to live like out in like Kerman or something.
No, she lived in Tulare. She used to go to all these Winter Soldier shows. Like we were like good friends, man.
Was this the Tiny Karina or was this?
Yeah, Tiny Katrina.
Okay.
She used to.
Maybe I'm thinking of a different city maybe I thought she lived in Kerman, but I think we're talking about the same person here.
Yeah, she
but
used
anyways.
to. She dated. She used to go to the Set Your Goals shows. She used to go to Winter Soldier shows. She used to be so obsessed with Most Inspirational. I don't remember. Yeah, dude. It's so funny, dude. It's so good. I mean, at that time she was a genuinely hardcore like fan of like local music. But yeah, so set your goals, dude. This is the MySpace days, people. Remember, this is how we
Yeah.
did shit.
So yeah, they had a MySpace. They had a few songs on there, and then I actually got their demo through Soulseek at the time. And everyone I knew who was super into it, and I was just obsessed with it. So I hit them up. I emailed the singer because they weren't represented by anybody at this point. And they're like, "Yeah, we're actually looking for a show. We want to do it on January 1st." And so I was like, "Oh, okay." And so I didn't know where to really go or where to like figure out a show, where to hold a show. People like who usually had house shows weren't available because it was New Year's Day.
Of course.
Yeah. But the Boys and Girls Club in Pineville let me throw it there. And it was Set Your Goals, Comadre played.
Oh man.
Like a bunch of like some other local bands played. That band Set It Straight was supposed to play, but they had to drop.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and it was like just a $5 show, and made money and gave it to the band. Then actually, I just kept in touch with Set Your Goals after that, and Comadre.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, that was my very first show, January 1st, 2005.
Wow.
Yeah, and
I was gonna just say, Kenny Gabe, I'm coming for you, baby.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk. You and your brother Juan, okay? I'm gonna get Jack in there too, man, because I'm such a big. You actually were one of the reasons why I got into Comadre.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
They're so good.
Yeah, I
They're
know,
so
dude.
good.
I know. The last record that they released, you know what sucks is that in that record that I bought from them, their the vinyl record, right? One particular song skips. It skips.
Oh, on the record?
Yeah, on the record, and it's not even scratched.
Ugh.
Yeah, dude, it was probably pressed improperly. I'm like, whatever. I bought it because I wanted to support them. You know what I'm saying?
For sure, absolutely.
But wow, Set Your Goals in Comadre, huh? That's a weird bill, dude. Because
that is a weird bill.
It is, and I think that's one thing that I kind of also wanted to touch upon is that most of your shows were pretty diverse. I mean, what was your reason of keeping it, I guess, weird in that sense?
In my mind, it was just a matter of like having people who created music just play with other people that created music. Like for a while, I didn't think it was like really like weird or anything, but I picked up on how weird that was later on, especially once I moved to Vegas. I was like, oh, people don't do that.
Yeah. Isn't that funny? Like, on that conversation that I had with Daniel, on my first interview I did with him, he mentioned something that was pretty prolific, in the fact that like at that time everybody was looking to jump into a show, and it didn't matter which kind of show it was, because there was just so much. It was so limited. No one was like promoting anything, and local music was so hard to jump in and to come by at that point. So
it was for a good while.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know. Like when we didn't have big games, we had like most of our bigger shows were at big games, or the Belmont or the Exit or whatever.
Yeah,
part of the whatever era you were a part of for that.
Right.
And then we just had, for a really good while, just house shows, or you would go see the occasional like really cool booking at Cup of Joe. Because like back then, like I was going to shows at Cup of Joe, but I didn't really follow a lot of the music.
Right.
But you would still see like, I don't know, some cool bands there. Or that's why like I think it took me a while to actually really get into booking, because I don't think the Boys and Girls Club in Pinedale wanted to have me back after that because it was like a hardcore show.
Yeah.
And and after that, just people would have people, I don't know, Set Your Goals would tell different bands to come through, and they would come play a house show in Fresno. Because
Wow.
I think the first 3 years, it was just like pop punk shows was all I booked because my name got out there with some bands, and I would do like This Time Next Year or Story So Far in the really early days, Fireworks.
Fireworks.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah.
Fireworks.
That actually reminds me about talking about like diverse shows. At Chris's house, this was like before CYC era. Chris's garage, she used to have a ton of shows in there. He used to do like Hour of the Wolf. We saw like Good Clean Fun. We saw Ludax. Ton of bands. But one
Ludax?
show I did, Ludax played in there a few times.
What the fuck? Are you serious?
Yeah, like quite a few times I think. It was fun. But I remember I think one of my favorite diverse shows. It was Check Raised. Before I played in Check Raised.
Yeah, you were the singer for that, and before Bobby went to do Heart Sounds.
Heart Sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Elmo played in Chris's garage. The show.
Wait a minute, hold on.
You guys
Let me think about that one. Hold on. Yeah, I remembered that show. Cause you know what happened? It was when Mike Adame started to be the vocalist for the band. Is that what at that time?
It was Mike was doing vocals at that point.
Yeah, cause I remembered like I think a month or so after, cause we had kicked out Sahab because Sahab used to be our singer for the very first EP, and also Rico Rodriguez. I don't know what he's doing these days.
Rico?
Yeah, Rico Rodriguez. He used to be our drummer.
He's in that band, Night Riots. He's actually like touring all over the place right now.
Oh, that's good for him. I mean, he's been like, him and Sahab have always put work in. So no matter what,
For sure.
always, you know what I mean? They were gonna pursue it, no matter what.
Yeah.
But oh my god, dude, you were talking about that show? Man, so many kids got high, dude, at that show. Oh my god, dude, it was nuts, man.
It was Elmo, Check Raised, that band First to Leave, and then Fireworks, and then like the week before, that '90s hardcore band that was on Victory, Damnation AD, they jumped on.
I remembered that. They spent the night at my house.
Yeah, and I don't think they've really played a house show since then, just because like anytime you see them on a bill, they're like pretty high up.
Yeah.
And they're just like coming through. They desperately needed a show.
Yeah.
I don't remember who called me about that, but I was just like, yes, let's have Damnation AD. And I was talking to their dude Ken in the band.
Right.
And he's still doing all that shit too. And he was in like Youth of Today for a while. He was like in a ton of different bands. But yeah, that was actually one of my favorites because I was like, I fucking booked Damnation AD in a fucking garage. And now they're like only playing festivals and like bigger stages now. It's like wild.
Yeah, that's when they came back, right? They came back? Like they were out for a while?
Yeah, and I think they played, was it a Warner's Theater show? But it was like, not Warner's Theater, but the venue they had next door.
Oh, okay.
But it was like the upstairs one. Like we did, it's going to bother me. But it was like the venue next to Warner's Theater, but it was massive. Like I saw Future Islands in there. That was a John Q show. We did No Effects in there. We did a Bleeding Through show in there. It might have been that show that they played.
Man, you know who I remembered seeing play? I think I know what you're talking about on the top floor. Between the Buried and Me.
Yes, and then Slade Silence had their last show at that one.
That's right, because before Eric, because Eric used to play in Slade Silence, and before then years after he would become the drummer for Farouk. Yeah, I remember that, dude. That was an iconic show.
I think I stage dove because we were just on stage with Slave Silence because we were just being dumb. Steve Castro was just like flying through the air, and then he fell. Someone dropped him, and I'm just like laying out, and they just keep like I just keep floating around for like songs. Nobody's dropping me, and I'm like, what is going on? I just looked it up. It's called Frank's Place. That was the name of the place.
Frank's Place. Okay, that's what
Or
it is.
yeah, Frank's Place or Star Palace.
No, it's
Shit.
Star Palace.
I
It's
don't
Star
know.
Palace. It's not
Star
Frank's Place.
Palace.
It's
Okay.
Star Palace because it's like a ballroom type of setting. That's what I remembered.
Yeah.
And you guys, and there was, I don't know if it was a makeshift stage or an actual stage that was built, but
It was an
yeah,
actual stage they put in there. Yeah.
yeah. So
It was
I
high.
remember.
It was like too.
I
That was
remember
fun.
I took pictures of that show. It was on, and you know what? Those pictures are still on my Deviant Art profile.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I remembered photographing Stephanie Ramirez in that show.
Oh man.
Yeah, she was there.
That's funny.
Dude, yeah. She was dude, she was so into a lot of that crazy stuff, dude. I don't know what she's doing now these days, but yeah, she was doing she was into it, man. She was really into it. Um
I think still somewhat into it. We follow each other on Instagram. So I think into it. I do remember that when I first went vegan, this was like '03
Yeah.
or so.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know anyone else that was vegan at the time, but I remember her like having like a vegan hoodie, like in '03, and I was just like, "Oh, who is this person?"
Yeah, she was a big advocate for vegetarian veganism. I don't know if she's still doing that
Yeah,
now, but I mean, um,
that was funny.
John, there was so much to talk about. Jesus Christ, it's been like years, man.
Jumping around to all these different
I know,
stories.
dude. And to think I'm calling you to do a podcast after like so many years of not talking to you. God damn it, dude. This is not cool,
Yeah, we were
man.
both, and we were both like not in Fresno. We haven't been there for a minute.
Yeah, I know. It's incredibly. This whole podcast is going to be like a Fresno, California podcast. That's all it is. This is me talking to my friends from Fresno. It's really what it is,
Yeah,
man.
all the clues kids need to listen, get a little snippet of what was going on before. I don't know. Before all this shit was going on there.
Yeah. Well, the reason why I mean I came to talk to you about it, and I obviously kind of going back into doing religious appeal, is because people don't understand is that at that time the Central Valley, from my eyes, was such a huge contributor to what the scene was in California.
Yeah,
You know?
I think because I think there's like I've actually put a lot of thought into this. There's like there's different like factors to it. Where like one, it's a big city that acts like a small city.
Right.
So part of it, like especially for me, like going back to what we were saying about with like different bills and different, like a mixed bills and genres and things like that, and like there was a lot of cool bands, but it was like why not have a punk band like I don't know, like with what you guys were doing a lot with Bridges, like a punk band like Bridges playing with Elmo, because that happened quite a bit.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it was yeah, and it was just like a lot of those kids are hanging out in Tower anyways, or
Right.
they're downtown for some reason. Why not put them out there together?
Right.
And that was one thing, and I think a lot of people really became friends
Yeah.
through that.
Yeah.
Like a lot of kids who were only interested in like just like some indie music, kind of got some punk music, and I don't know, some of those mixtape parties were also crazy too, and you just have like different people hanging out.
Wow, you said the mixtape parties. And that's
Those are
something that
too.
people don't understand. Guys, if you guys are listening to this podcast, okay? One of the things that John did, I don't know how many mixtape parties he had. You probably had 3 or 4, from what I remembered.
I guess 4.
Okay. I think I designed one or two of those mixtape parties, like the flyer.
The flyer you did.
Yeah. So guys, let me just tell you something, okay? So John, obviously, he worked with his limited resources at that time. Before
Mm-hmm.
like CYC like was around. So what he would do is he would actually throw these shows with like a pretty diverse bill.
And that was like the intention of it. It was like the show was like a mixtape.
Exactly.
Like, so you would just have like different bands
Right.
playing together.
And so what the genius part about this, and most of these shows that I experienced on the mixtape parties were in fact from in a house. I mean, this is straight like raw DIY stuff. But people would bring their mixtapes. John would have them in a box or in a bag. And after the show, I think he would have a ticket. So you would have a ticket, and then
Yeah.
you would grab whatever's inside that satchel or that bag or whatever box, and that would be your mixtape. And I thought that was the most original idea that I've ever like. In fact, I still have that mixtape. It's a shitty mixtape, and in the front cover of this, yeah, it's a CD, and the front cover says "Naked Boob Sex."
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh.
naked boob sex. It's like spray painted in shit brown. And what the guy did was he had some songs just slowed down to like 90 BPM. I was like, first of all, I was like, fuck this guy. But at the same time, I was like, this guy's a fucking genius. You know what I'm saying? I even remembered when John Relota used to play in Light Thieves, he made a CD of him singing like an R. Kelly song, I think.
I think it was, I believe, like Inspired.
Yeah, and it was really bad. But he did two cuts of that song and another song, and he basically just duplicated those songs like 6 times. So there's like 3 tracks of like each of the same song. I'm like, oh my god, these guys are insane. They're fucking out of their fucking mind, dude.
So like, I tried to make it where like people wouldn't get their friends' mixtape.
Yeah.
So like, you would just redeem your token, and I would just give you a random one.
Yeah.
And I would, knowing mostly everybody, I knew who to give, how to divvy them up between complete strangers.
Yeah.
I did cheat one year though, because I took a mixtape that I really wanted for myself. It was one that Daniel Schultz made. It was one of his like crazy mixes that he made, where like it's just one piece of music, but it's like different songs. Like it wasn't even like he just like matched the beats and played them together. It was like he did a bunch of weird shit to it. And then he wrapped it up in foil, put it in a bag, and then filled up the bag with fake blood. So if you wanted to taste, you had to dip your hand into like this fake blood. And it was wrapped in foil, so it would still work.
What the fuck? Daniel Schultz is so interesting to me because he still runs that label Apicnoid, right?
He does, yes.
Okay.
I believe he does.
Yeah, I don't know if he's still doing that now, and I don't know if he's still doing Troubled by Insects. That was his like his stage name or his stage band or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like so influenced by Woods and like all these weird, and in fact like he's a big fan of Enemy's List. You know that record label?
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to work. I used to work for that label. I know Dan.
When was this?
This was like years ago. I know Dan Barrett like personally.
Huh.
Yeah,
I did not know this.
I used to have like when I see him, I would have like egg and cheese like bageled sandwiches with him. And coffee. Dude, the guy's a total dork. I love it, dude. It's so funny. Like I had I held some of those records that he was selling. I had some. I even had like on my hand like some of the test presses of like the very first Dweller on the Threshold. I don't know if you know who
Oh
that band
shit.
is. Yeah, so weird, man. And I think I had like held some of like other test presses of Have a Nice Life too, which was pretty weird.
Okay. Huh.
Yeah, it was pretty weird. But anyway, I sorry, dude. Like we're so like going like off the
So
rails
many like
here.
little offshoot stories here. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this
Um.
is good though. This is good. I mean, because it really it does kind of come together because religious appeal was certainly a big name, at least for me, in the scene that we were part of at that time. And um, I guess what was your biggest show yet as religious appeal?
Probably that last catacomb party we threw.
Oh
That was
man,
like the numbers that the police department threw at us was probably like 10,000.
wow. That was a
Which is,
religious appeal. That was a religious appeal affiliated event.
yeah. I mean, that was really just whatever production name. I'm trying to remember. I think it was Nothing Gold. Was what Mathar was going under, and
Oh
then
man,
but for all different. What was that?
man, I Mathar. I haven't heard that name in like years.
He had a few different production names, but for the three that we did, it was religious appeal for me. So yeah, that was like a religious appeal event that drew that many people and was one of the most stressful days of my life. But it was really fun.
Yeah, I can see that because that was in downtown Fresno, correct? That was like near the baseball park.
Yeah, so we had it start on kind of like Tuolumne Street, which is the north end of the Fulton Mall, like right where like the CVS was
Okay.
or is. I think it used to be like a Long's Drugs before that.
Mhm.
But anyways, it's like right out in front of like Warner's Theater is where we had it start, and then it went all the way down to just south of the baseball field where Tioga Sequoia is.
Okay.
So it was pretty long, and we had this last year. I was looking at the schedule. I don't understand how we did this. I think it was like 8 stages.
You had
And
8
so,
stages at that
yeah,
show?
yeah.
That's murder.
I'm like, I was looking at it like maybe even like a couple months ago, and I was like, oh, I forgot that like we did all this booking and we did all this coordinating and telling bands what their set times are and when to be where, and somehow we did it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
really, like, we had it was like a bunch of businesses opened their places up for stages. So like one room, like um, one person took over a whole room, decorated it really crazy, and
Mhm.
put up a stage. We had a bar restaurant. We let them use a stage, or they let us use their stage. Tioga Sequoia has a stage, so we use that. Inside the security bank, we built a stage in there, and we put music up in there. And then we had two or three, two bigger stages, and then like a
Mhm.
third smaller one out
Right.
somewhere.
Right.
So yeah, we just took over the middle area, and got some bands out there to play. And yeah, it was an all day thing. It was free. You would just buy beer, buy food, buy merch, and yeah, it was crazy. And I don't. It was really cool to see happen because Fresno has seen lots of festivals happen, but I don't think we've seen a festival like that before.
So do you think that that was sort of a that was the reason why Grizzly Fest now exists?
Well, I know they did have one Grizzly Fest before the Catacombs, I believe,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
for the Catacomb parties. But it was at Paw Paw Theater, like one stage, one thing. Um, I think the Aarons who booked that, Aaron. or everyone knows him as Hectic also. He manages Fashion. And then also Aaron Gomes, who does all of the crazy shows of Isolia.
Mm-hmm.
I think those dudes are so fucking smart. I think those dudes would have figured it out themselves, obviously, because they're doing much bigger things than Mathar and I could have ever done.
Right.
Like, much bigger things. But I do like to think that what we did kind of, lit a fire in some people's asses. Like, oh, we can actually do something cool at this. Or, you can, because we were just booking smaller, like, we were booking like a ton of like hipster bands,
Sure.
And people came in the thousands for these like to Fresno for like these like hip bands.
Mm-hmm.
Like Joyce Manor, there was probably like a couple thousand people out there and people going nuts, which you wouldn't think would happen there.
Right.
But I'd like to think that we kind of was a motivator. And Aaron also helped out a lot with the Catacomb parties. Aaron Gomes did, and Hectic came out and supported. And Hectic was actually really important in getting Fashion to play as our headliner for the second Catacomb party.
Right.
So I think having them involved helped them out in ways with Grizzly Fest.
So you were also pretty important as far as like the CYC existing too, and I don't know if that still is. I don't know if it does. Does it still exist?
I do not think so.
Okay, because I remembered like seeing some posts from the Saint X guitarist Jamima Barba.
Oh yes.
Yeah, and
I believe it happened at a house. I think they wanted it there, and it happened at a house instead. If I remember correctly.
I don't even remember. I don't even know what the whole story is with that too. But I mean, a lot of the shows in CYC. I don't know if you were. Were you part of that period where we had like Ghost Limb, like pretty much the Vitriol like Records roster, Comadre, even Ceremony, like.
Right.
Were you the one that booked those shows?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
So other people started it, and again, like I was thinking more about booking, wanting to get more shows going and whatnot. And once I heard about CYC, and I finally had a place to do these shows. And the CYC made shows very easy. You would just, hit them up, say you want a date, and you would, just make sure you left the place clean, when you're done.
Yeah.
And that first show that I did was 2 weeks after they opened, and that was Ghost Limb, and Graf Orlock and Comadre.
Yeah.
And that show is what I kind of credit for like helping things kind of take off from there.
Mm-hmm.
Because like the house shows were going well, for as much as well as house shows can go.
Right.
And I was like, oh, cool, I can actually pay a band, and they're stoked to see how much money they're getting, and they want to come back, and they tell other people. So, yeah, so once CYC came around, I was able to book it. I think it was a Friday night, and we had over 100 paid.
Wow.
For like a $7 show.
Which
is like really good for Comadre in Fresno,
Was that it wasn't Graf Orlock, was it Dangers?
Oh man, no, it was Graf Orlock too. Graf Orlock, Dangers, and Comadre, and then Ghost Limb. It was a stacked bill.
Yeah, because I remember Dangers playing. They were the last of that bill, and I've never seen anybody go so nuts for that band.
Yeah.
I mean,
oh my God, he was crazy. Al from Dangers. He was nuts.
Yeah, and I got a chance to meet up with him. His band came to Connecticut years ago, and twice.
Awesome.
Yeah, twice. And I met up with Alfred, and you know that Alfred is half Filipino.
Yeah, I didn't know he was Filipino.
Yeah, he's half
I knew that he was
Filipino.
like, huh,
Yeah.
whoa. That's news to me, actually.
That was news to me too because I brought my Filipino jacket thinking I'm cool and shit. And he's like, oh, you're Filipino? Like, yeah, dude, you know how to speak? I was like, nah, I just, my grandmother. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, awesome, you know what I mean? But,
Right.
but, yeah, I remember that show. It was so stacked. And I remembered, I think it was Energy played a show. Um, I
That
think,
show was another stack show.
was Have
It
Heart
was
part of that?
Energy yeah, it was Energy Defeater, Pinky Swear Prove It, Rotting Out, Have Heart, and Shook Ones. And that was too many people into that tiny little building. Like, we had to start taking money outside, and we had to move all the merch outside. We're like, this is too packed.
Wow.
Yeah, there was that show, and then we had a Ceremony at Our Heels Rise, I think, Violation show there. That show was kind of scary because, like, it was, if I remember correctly, it was right when they put out Roner Park, so people were going crazy over that
Yeah.
hit song.
Yes, yes,
Um,
yes.
and somebody was too drunk to be there. I know who this person is. I'm not going to call them out. They're too drunk to be there. Ended up shoving somebody and pulling a knife out on them, I think. And then the cops got called. So I remember Rise. If you remember Rise from Visalia,
Yeah, yeah.
they're playing, and all these cop cars show up, and there's helicopters flying over. And I remember running inside and being like, we need to stop this shit right now. Luckily, the cops took care of it, arrested this person, and then they were just like, all right, you kids can keep going. And then they let us continue to play. Yeah, I thought the show was over for sure.
Well,
But
it was a private club. You know what I mean? So.
But the thing is, like, they looked at it and they're like, this is not a private club. I think I had a Flatliners. It was like Flatliners, Hard Sounds, Broadway Calls, and the fire department showed up. Looked around, saw that there was no sprinkler system, and then just like walked out. And they're like, "You guys have fun." I was like, "All right."
Damn. Yeah, that
was wild.
I don't know how that shit got passed. It was so weird, man.
Yeah, it was strange. Like, I don't understand how, like, cops and fire department were so cool with it. I feel like they also just had more important things to worry about in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That was a really bad neighborhood too. That was a bad neighborhood.
It was a super bad neighborhood.
Yeah.
It was a very bad neighborhood where there was definitely a lot of like drugs being sold around there, and yeah, just like lots of things. But the thing is, like, it was also important to have a place like CYC there because a lot of people called that place home, and a lot of those people were younger. And I remember being there, and kids would walk to CYC like at night and being like, we're actually really excited to see something like this happen in our neighborhood. And they would come not even knowing it was like punk music or even the band or anything. They just wanted somewhere to go hang out. And CYC offered that, even though it was like, I tend to forget about those things sometimes because, for how much people talk about how bad Chinatown was and whatnot, you just think about all the bad things that happened in that neighborhood, but it's important to remember that place offered a lot of good too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a rough neighborhood.
It was a rough neighborhood, and that kind of just touches upon religious appeal as a whole. I mean, it was kind of your way of like gathering your friends and people that you didn't know to actually check out these bands.
Yeah, and people were pretty open to it because, we were all much younger and we had our jobs and whatnot, but also our bodies held up more. So, you can go work a full day of work and be like 21, 22 and being like, you know what, I can go to a show and then you know what, I will have a drink with everyone afterwards.
Yeah.
Which is not the case for a lot of us now at our age where, you're looking at the clock at work and you're like, I just can't wait to get home.
Yeah.
But I think also we just kind of motivated each other just to kind of be like, let's enjoy like having a good time.
Yeah. That was
God,
definitely that was definitely the days, man. But um, so now, I mean, I guess because we're gonna go wind this up, I guess. So what's your current projects now, and what are you doing as of late? Since Religious Appeal had, it had to dissolve because you had a career change and such.
yeah. So I still help out a bit with like I'm not throwing my own definitely. I keep thinking about doing it again. I might get back into it, but right now I'm helping other people kind of book their own shows and helping other people run their own shows and whatnot. And then I'm also playing in two bands at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
One is called Oversight. We just put out a 7-inch on Running in Place Records. Um, we're all very proud of it. They're actually going on tour. Where's there? We're actually going on tour to promote it. Our kickoff show is tomorrow, May 17th, and
Wow.
then doing like a little week, quick week run, and then also another band called Iron Palm. We're in the middle of kind of like writing for that project at the moment,
Mm-hmm.
and that's my vegan band.
So
So even after all these years, I still rep it.
you've been vegan for quite some time. I keep forgetting that because I don't see you as
Over
vegan.
15 years.
Yeah, I don't see you as vegan. I see you as John. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like honestly, like I mean, at that time, people were like, "Yeah, man, vegan John or whatever." And Arthur's a vegetarian
That
too,
actually made its
man.
way on the news too.
It did, didn't
When
it?
when my buddy who was working at KMPH, the Fox affiliate out in Fresno, when they came out to cover Catacomb, he was working at the studio at the time when they were doing all the editing, and so he put my name as Vegan John, and so it showed up on the 10 o'clock news as Vegan John. When I was just standing there talking about Catacomb Party.
He just wanted to be an asshole, huh? Jesus
Oh yeah, for
Christ.
sure.
You know what? Speaking of that, um, do you remember the interview that we did? I think it was for KMPH. It was about emo kids and what emo meant.
Oh my God.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Dude,
How long ago was that?
yeah, dude, I was high when I did that interview. Dude, I swear to
God, I
God.
forgot about that.
Yeah, I remember cuz that whole movement. I mean, I'm still into it, man. I mean,
Oh, for sure.
I'm
Same.
still an emo kid at heart. I've never left it. I still am interested in it. Nick Danes at this time of recording had released his emo band. You know,
Mhm.
I mean, Jesus Christ, you were in an emo band called Fast Car, kinda. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, and
Oh, those were the days.
they were so good. But do you remember that interview of being kind of awkward?
It was super awkward, and I think everyone was just kind of like everyone watched it but knew what to expect, and everyone was just like, "Oh my God, that was so ridiculously bad," but exactly what we expected.
What was the response that you got when they saw me and you there?
It was just like people were just like laughing, like, "Really, John? Like, really?" And it was just like silly because the thing is like the only reason you participate in things like that is because like it's going to be silly.
Yeah.
Like you're not just like, oh my God, I get to go on the news and inform all these people. Like no.
No, 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 not at all. In fact, they had sort of they sort of gave it a sort of a bad name because emo was sort of affiliated with kids who were suicidal, had mental health issues.
Oh yeah, they did that whole different side of it. That like we were not there, we were not present. It was like a voiceover thing they did,
Yeah,
like just
yeah.
for like the reporting, and then they kind of mixed it into our to our part, and we're like, oh, that's fucking weird, but also I don't know. I expected that too.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Because bad news is good news for these people. You know what I mean? So,
true,
you know what I'm saying?
true.
I heard so many weird things about that, like that cast, like the Fox News. like MPH Fox News. Oh God.
Like, like, what would you hear about them?
Oh man. I don't know. Someone used to buy weed. One of the anchors used to buy weed from like one of like my friend's suppliers. Like, what the
Oh, I
fuck?
heard. Yeah, yeah.
You
What
know
the
what I'm talking
fuck? You
about,
would
right?
hear some stuff about. I do know who you're talking about. I heard some stuff about like, yeah, there that 10 o'clock like party crew. That's what it was. They were already at the bar by the time all the 11 o'clock news went on.
Yeah, yeah. They hated their job, dude. They fucking hated it. They
I
were.
actually used to go to the bar. Okay, one of the guys from Check Grades used to work at KMPH. And oh yeah, and then the other kid who put Vegan John like as my name on the news. Like seriously, right at 11 o'clock, everyone would jump in their cars and they would go to Stones, and I used to go have drinks with them, and they would just be like,
Man.
"Ugh, God, I forgot about all that." Yeah, because I was living at Saginaw at that point, so I would just like, I don't know, I would have like crazy like insomnia night hours, even though I had work at 9. I would
Yeah,
still
yeah,
be up till like 3.
yeah, yeah,
And at like 10:30, my buddy would be like, "Hey, we're on the way to Stones." I'm like, "Okay," and then I would just like hop on the bike.
yeah.
And, like,
Cause you were
right,
by there. You lived by there.
I was right there. Yeah,
Yeah, I remember.
it was a good little ride. Yeah, it was fun.
Man. Well,
And
clear.
those gin and tonics. But yeah, we can wrap this up.
Right,
It's
right.
going on
Well,
forever.
clearly, like we have. I might have to come back and talk to you again. About
Yeah,
most of the stuff. I mean, this was kind of a very nostalgic moment, and I think that's probably why um, I wanted to talk to you because uh, you have been a big component in my life as far as not only being a friend but being an advocate to DIY like music and DIY promoting and really setting the stage for kids who wanted to do their own thing, do it themselves, and you really showed them that you could. And in fact, there have been a couple of people who came from that scene are doing big things, and they were part of that, religious
yeah.
appeal. They were. Um, so I gotta thank you, man, for really doing that for us and doing that for the kids in Fresno that didn't have anything to do but to go and see a show for $5. It was very fugazi of you. You know what I mean?
I that was part of the influence. That's all.
Yeah.
Ian Mackay is a huge influence on me.
I still
But
was.
also, same to you, because you wrote a lot of music, a lot of like some records that remind a lot of people about like summers and just growing up in Fresno. Just the way you play, something about it is very like Fresno summer. That whole period for me, it's a big, and it was like a soundtrack for a lot of people. We all played our part in this.
Yeah, I think that I gotta agree with you on that, man, because I mean Fresno was such a big thing to me before I moved here,
Hmm.
and Elmo Marconi. I don't know if anybody. I want somebody to do what Elmo Marconi did.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Oh, for sure.
I haven't seen that. You
No,
know?
I think that there's some people who have the potential, but they're kind of on different things right now.
Yeah, no, totally. Oh my God. There's so many dude, the musicians in Fresno right now. Oh my God. I'm going to tell you, they shred. I'm like, God damn it. Where the fuck were you guys at, man? Like how is, you know what I'm
I
saying?
know. Well, there's like what Haunt is like getting going,
Yes.
and like Beastmaker and
Oh,
Distort and all. I'm like, where were these fucking guitar players?
that's what I'm
Where were they when we
saying.
were all trying to start bands?
Right. And the problem is with Trevor, I played with Trevor for a while, you know?
Right.
I knew he was going to go somewhere. You know what I mean? But it's just like,
He let that dark side out, like for everyone to see. Like it's always been there, but he let it out for everyone to see.
yeah. He wasn't really part of like the indie rock scene. He really wasn't. I mean, he just was. He liked it, but he knew that it wasn't gonna last. I knew that.
Mhm.
I knew that.
Mhm.
But anyway, man, is there anything else that you wanted to? Man, I know there's so much to talk about, but is there anything else you wanted
I
to
know.
shout out?
I think we covered our bases for the moment, even though I do have a lot of little stories here and there we can talk about it at a later time.
Oh man, that's gonna be in another podcast. I promise you,
For sure.
I'm gonna have you back in because this is sort of unfinished business. So this is something this is something that I need to like kind of talk with you about because there's so much shit that I need to ask you and talk to you about. But anyway, John, thank you very much for being part of the podcast, man. And I guess is there anything else like again that you wanted to shout out?
I guess shout out to everyone who's still doing cool shit out there, and everyone who always still makes Fresno like home every time I visit, which I do pretty frequently still.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, man. I'm gonna head out, dude. Thanks for having a chat with me, bud.
You take care, man. I'll
All
talk
right.
to you. I'll talk to you sooner than the last time we talked.
Absolutely. See you later, bud.
All right, later.
Thanks. And that's it for this episode of the Bueno Power Hour podcast. And I just want to thank John Esquivel again for having a conversation with me on some good times in Fresno. Really big component of my life as a musician. And it really, giving me that chance to play these songs I wrote with that I miss very much. And John is such a big influence into the Fresno scene, and if he wasn't around, I don't think really Elmo would have the chance to play shows for these people. So yeah, thank you very much, John. I really appreciate it. So it seems as though that all the all the podcasts are going up on YouTube. I deleted my SoundCloud. So you guys can listen to this for free. As always, hit that like, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Check me out on the other platforms, Facebook, my own blog as well, buenopower.com. You can check out my photo portfolio, arthurbueno.com, and you can check out my Bandcamp page, lostloves.bandcamp.com, lstlvs.bandcamp.com. So that's pretty much it. Guys, thank you very much for listening in. Stay tuned for the next episode.